Well, I'll keep this introduction pretty short. Unlike the 1978 video, we have a full 365 days to go through for the year 1979, and I'll be using the same tiers. F tier for the ones I don't get or don't like, D tier are the ones that I don't really like, but they're not horrible, C tier are okay, B tier are good but not great, A tier are the ones that make me exhale from a nostril, and S tier are the ones that I actually laughed at. So with that said, let's get into the comics from the year 1979. I don't know if this is an outdated reference to some movie or if John is straight up being racist here, but it kinda seems like the latter, so that's not good. John, do better. I'm pretty sure in this day and age, and even back then, this would have been considered some kind of assault, so John, do better. Not cool, dude. Did Jim Davis really just look at the ingredients for a cat food box that he was buying and say, "Wow, this would make a great comic"? If so, he was wrong. John, I don't know what you were thinking with this poem, but let's just say you're not joining the Hall of the Greats of Poetry anytime soon with this thing. This joke is just a little too outdated for me. I looked up who Ethel Barrymore was, and she was some actress who was really popular in the early days of film, but I didn't know that without Googling it, so I just don't care. Referencing an actor or actress who was irrelevant by the time this comic was even written is a surefire way to go straight to F tier. I mean, I understand the joke, but I just don't really find it that funny, and I would struggle to imagine cat owners or dog owners finding this funny. Yep, cats are easier to house train, I guess. Cool. I know Garfield really doesn't like exercise, but the punchline he delivers here really isn't all that entertaining. Given Garfield's usually lazy nature, I'm not exactly sure why he's upset here, but I guess he does have an affinity for partying, but who cares? I feel like this joke might be funnier if I actually knew what they were watching before John suggested moving it over to the movie, whatever it was, so this is certainly a comic that attempted something, I guess. You know, especially in the early days of Garfield, John was kind of a giant incel, and incel I'm pretty sure was not even a word that existed yet at this point. What do you know? While I'm fine with the sappiness around the Christmas comics of Garfield, this one is just a bit preachy. I mean, I guess it comes from a good place, but it's just too preachy for Garfield. Once again, don't know who Beau Brummel is, but honestly, given some of the outfits that John would wear golfing looking almost exactly like this in later comics, I really don't think he has any room to talk and criticize Lyman here. I wonder if it ever occurred to Garfield that his aunt might in fact be trans, but I have no idea. Just saying it's a possibility here. You know, Garfield, I think you trying to do a spooky thing in the mirror is about 2 months too early, given that this is an August comic, not an October one. Garfield, dude, I don't care. Just eat the food, okay? I don't care. Another entry in the Garfield flirts with food camp, and I still don't care. The word sloppy feels a little bit out of place, like disgustingly fat, slovenly fat. Yeah, those both make sense, but sloppy fat? More like sloppy and fat? I don't know, John. Go find out how to speak English. This doesn't make sense. Well, spring sure is here, Garfield, huh? I just don't like the punchline, sorry. Sorry, Garfield, gonna have to disagree with you here. I don't really consider that a snappy comeback. Garfield, you are a male cat. I'm pretty sure you can't wet nurse unless you're trying to tell us something here. And hey, Nermal's not even really a kid, he's just a midget, as we find out later. Garfield's decent one-liner here balances out John's objectifying the woman, I guess. Seriously, do better, John. Well, that's not gonna be fun to clean out of the car later, huh, John? That is definitely a punch and not a poke. Come on, Jim Davis. We all see the closed fist. I know this happens more than once, but I'm just not really a fan of the Garfield depressed arcs that sometimes show up in the comics. They're just not really that funny. Well, from what I've heard from my friends who actually do own cats, this is pretty realistic, but realistic is not always that funny. I know Garfield likes to LARP sometimes, but I don't know, this one just didn't really work for me. I'm sure this one comic speaks a lot more to actual cat owners than it does to me. And they say there are no stupid questions. I mean, out in nature, isn't the whole world your sandbox, Garfield? Or maybe Liz is just into submissive men, John. Ever think about that? I suppose God works in mysterious ways for Garfield. Have I ever seen a jogger laugh? Yeah, would they win the race? That's a fair point, Garfield. I guess that is a little bit unfair for you. Once again, I do get the joke, but it's not really that funny, I don't feel like. Garfield, that is indeed a great question. Does John think that Garfield went up there willingly, or is he just being a troll? Pretty sure that second definition is not on dictionary.com, Garfield. I've heard that some cats do try to sleep on their owners' faces, and I really am not sure why. But yeah, I guess Garfield does it too. So this is basically like that one Twilight Zone episode where the guy dies and goes to hell and he ends up getting everything he ever wanted because that's hell for him. You do look pretty stuck there, Garfield, but I'm pretty sure just because you are ready for the next kitty-sized bed doesn't mean you aren't fat. Yeah, come on, John. Don't put down Garfield for wanting to spend time with you. Is the joke that humans are condescending towards cats, or that they don't have enough of an appreciation for, like, the sophistication of their taste palates? I don't know. Don't worry, Garfield. I'm sure your dreams of being a pianist will be realized one day. I think John should be amazed that Garfield is dexterous enough to even play a trumpet in the first place. You know what, Garfield? There are much worse things that John could have tried serving you, so I would say count your blessings. What really surprises me is that Garfield hasn't flipped out yet. I guess Garfield's feeling pretty patient towards John today. Somehow, they just know. They always know John. So, yeah. Can any fat people confirm whether or not they get offended when people say droop to them? R.I.P. to John's flower garden. This will not be the last time that this happens, though. Well, John, sucks to suck. I guess you're standing. Given some of the jokes cracked in later Garfield comics, I'm guessing this call didn't stay too anonymous when they found out how much Garfield was really eating. Are John's cheeks burning because of the eggs he's eating? I don't really get this one. I mean, I guess that's helpful for bachelors who don't have cookies in the cookie jar. They could just use any other container, John. I mean, given testaments in later comics, I'm pretty sure Garfield can read, but I guess this was during the point where he was still learning, so John was a little bit surprised by the fact, I guess. While there are a lot of great zingers that women use to turn down John, this certainly is not one of the great ones. Well, he certainly came and got it. Yep. I mean, I get the joke. I don't know what else to say. Who waxes their TV? Like, dusting it I get, but like waxing it? Really, John? Sometimes there's just a thing as too honest, and that's what Irma is being here. I feel like John should have heard the fly buzzing, but this is just another reason never to eat raisin toast. I mean, most motels still don't accept pets, so really nothing has changed, huh, Garfield? Nobody's home in Odie's brain in this comic, and nobody's home to deliver a good punchline either. Imagine being dependent on a drink to start your day. This post has been made by the Casual Tea Appreciator Association. For someone who allegedly loves to court danger, you think he would have been prepared for this. I wonder if this one is still the world record. I guess I'll find out it's Summoning Salt's world record progression on getting keys stuck on a typewriter. John, never speak the name of the Forbidden One. Never speak his name. This implies that John is not the only pet owner that constantly flirts with Liz, and, yeesh. I mean, it really isn't, Garfield. It's really not a good comeback, because sometime after that, yeah, I just don't think that's gonna work. Well, at least he had a witty response to that comeback, so I guess good for you, John. Don't worry, Garfield. According to your own lore, you have at least one more life left. Anyone who says that pets aren't clean clearly is not taking care of their own pet. Love may be fickle, Garfield, but I still don't think it's a good message to send out to everyone when you hit a woman like that. I mean, sleeping is a job according to Garfield, so I guess he's right about that. I mean, if you're really that skinny, then you're practically one-dimensional, and I'm sure you have bigger problems than trying to take a shower. Sweat sock breath is kind of a crazy insult to throw around, but I also kind of like it. I'm with Garfield on this one. I would never want to go camping alone. This is your friendly reminder to go ahead and wash your bedsheets if you have not done so in a few weeks. I mean, if you have a slightly abnormal work schedule, then some people also don't have to go to work on Mondays. I mean, if you have Monday and Tuesday or Sunday and Monday off, then you don't have to go to work. Just saying, Garfield. Think about people who have weird work schedules. It's nice that Garfield has his own little jokes to keep himself entertained, isn't it? I can honestly say that I have never related to Garfield like this, so I guess it's just you, buddy. Well, maybe next time your feet will be in the mood to go jogging, Garfield. Maybe next time. I'm starting to think that Pookie might just be enabling Garfield, and that's kind of problematic. Well, Garfield, you always gotta look on the bright side of life, huh? I don't know. I've seen much uglier things that people try to dress up their pets in, so this isn't really that bad. I mean, honestly, John, what did you really expect waking up Garfield this early in the morning? Man, Garfield was really on top of body positivity all the way back in 1979, wasn't he? And I guess you know what that tastes like, Garfield? Would you care to elaborate on that one? I mean, given that they have very sharp claws, yeah, I think you're right about this one, John. Does cat food really do this if you let it sit there for a while? I honestly have no idea. Given the level of dexterity that Garfield shows during these comics, I feel like he could probably brush his own teeth. And also, they make several jokes of him using the toothbrush in later comics, so don't really think this is actually a problem for you, buddy boy. That was pretty impressive, Garfield. Congrats to you, I guess. Well, apparently they do, because I believe this nickname is never brought up again. Well, Garfield, maybe you guys should have just used your skill spread a little bit better, huh? Maybe you could try learning sign language or something, Garfield. That might help. And welcome to the very first comic where Nermal was introduced. Originally he was introduced as the kitten of John's parents, but they pretty much dropped that immediately, but this was his very first appearance. If he bonked the top of his head, why is he grabbing his nose in pain? I feel like any garment that is made of a singular thread that can just be unraveled like this has a pretty clear design flaw. Sappy, but well-intentioned. About on par with a Garfield Christmas comic. Guess John wasn't really prepared for this bath time for Garfield. Garfield truly is a medical anomaly with how he's able to still be so healthy despite being so fat. I mean, usually when I get a leg cramp, I just want to lie there in pain until it goes away, so I don't think I can really relate to this one. And according to Garfield, one of those fun things is baiting and maiming. So you have, John. So you have. I guess in the most literal of senses, he was indeed watching the TV, it's just that there was nothing on it that it was like actually being shown, so I guess you win this round, Garfield. Well, at least this is a symbiotic relationship with the two. I guess you could say Nermal likes to do a little bit of trolling. I mean, he's right, no one really wants to eat food that has pet hair in it, or hair in general, as most people don't like swallowing their own hairs either. Hate to disagree with you there, John, but yeah, in some cases there has been mail still sent to people who have passed away due to unfortunate circumstances. I mean, he's got you there, Garfield. He did say a sausage, not some sausages, so... John, never fall for the oldest trick in the book, my guy. Come on. I don't know, that kind of looked like more than 3 times, and I'm pretty sure there's a later Garfield comic where Garfield makes that exact joke. I don't know, Garfield. Have you seen Odie's tail? It looks pretty menacing. I guess I don't really blame him. Again? John, if this already happened once, I figured you'd have taken countermeasures to make sure it never happened again. I'm with you, Garfield. Raisins are disgusting. That's why I don't like Raisin Bran. I mean, to be fair, waterbeds suck, so I really think it's on the Hamiltons and not Garfield. How long do you think it was before John figured out what actually happened here? Maybe there should have been like a Katamari DLC with Garfield as the Katamari ball. I don't know, kinda think it might have fit. I mean, it just fell on the floor, John. You could probably just repot the thing, but you do you, I guess. Well, Garfield, you know what they say. There's nothing like the great outdoors, and the far-flung forest is the best, of course. Because if you want to get close to the greenery, then camping in the wild is the place to be. Because there's flowers, and there's squirrels, and fish, and frogs. Caves, and rocks, and lots of logs. You may have gotten lucky this time, John, but I don't think Garfield's going to be willingly singing anytime soon, unless it's out on his fence. Are there tennis rackets actually strung with that, or was John just trying to troll Garfield? I really don't know. Don't worry, John. She'll go on a date with you eventually. I promise, it's in the future comics. Oh, Valette, we hardly knew ye. I think that's less size and more just pure strength, Garfield. I wonder what Garfield's personal tier list for the various fast food chicken restaurants out there would be. I do kind of wonder how Nermal got the title of World's Cutest Kitten. Like, did he just start calling himself that, or is there like an actual judging competition that he won? Damn, that chicken's bigger than Garfield. Yeah, I think he knows. While Garfield may know how to manipulate John, John also knows how to manipulate Garfield, so I guess they're even. Seems like John perfectly understood Garfield in this scenario. I feel like Garfield would make a remarkably good doomsday prepper, except for the fact that he would then subsequently eat all the food way faster, despite having stored up several months worth of it. Well, John, like other cat owners, you've learned that you're not really the one in control here. You know, I wonder where the rest of Lyle's colony was. I feel like there are much worse things that could be done to a golf course, so honestly, who really cares? I mean, there's always the barrels, Buckeye. And unfortunately for you, Garfield, he's in your food. I guess that'll be a double beating for Normal later. If I were John, I'd just be impressed that he can cling to the ceiling of the car like that. That is, of course, assuming that Garfield has not already eaten all the peanut butter and jelly. Apparently, Garfield truly is a queen. What an icon. Based on John's smile, I take it he doesn't really mind all that much, and based on what I've heard from other pet owners, they don't mind either. I'm surprised at how many relatives Garfield seems to have that seem to have met a very grisly fate, and he just keeps smiling. What a psychopath. A rare instance of Garfield actually being full. It's more rare than you might think. I mean, clearly they can drink coffee, but it might just not be healthy for them, John. With lungs like that, Garfield, you could be a deep-sea diver or an opera singer. Maybe you should consider one of those. Given that Jim Davis can write these comics ahead of time, I'm never taking a bet against Garfield. I've always loved the visual gag of someone drinking something that ends up spurting out of their ears in like comic books. I don't know, I just think that's really funny. This is surprisingly a comic where Garfield is actually pretty positive about spiders and does not immediately try to kill them, so, I don't know, I guess something happened that made him go off the deep end later. This isn't the only time that Garfield uses Odie like a horse, and honestly I'm just amazed that Odie has the strength to carry Garfield on his back at all, much less run. I don't know why, but John's pose in this specific strip just looks really ridiculous and funny. I just love it. I'm sure that in the unshown panel preceding the first one, there would have been a panel of that small cat completely mauling the big one, and that's why the big one is retaliating. Remember the rule of Fire Emblem, Garfield. If the battle forecast shows that your attack has a less than 90% accuracy, it's 0% accuracy. Given Garfield seems to be surprised by this, I guess it wasn't him who did it, so was it Lyman? Well, it's either going to be lasagna with vitamins in it, or it's going to be scurvy. What are you going to pick, Garfield? Given Garfield never does this again, I think he was just doing this to troll John. Pretty sure that would count as animal abuse, John, so I really don't think you want to go around be doing that. Well, I suppose Garfield's at least trying to be a decent wingman for John, so good for him. I'm with Liz on this one. I guess some people just really can't take a hint. Get flipped on, idiot. Just a tad, Garfield. Just a tad. I sure hope that Garfield can still breathe with his face planted on the ground like that. Come on, John, we haven't even gotten to see what sort of shadow animals that Garfield can make. Well, owners and pets can't always be in sync, can they? You know, John, I think your fashion choices are driving a lot of potential mates away. Like, that pink with that blue, doesn't really fit together. Of all the dogs a cat could be mistaken for, I gotta say Chihuahua is probably one of the worst ones, so I feel sorry for Garfield's Aunt Evelyn. I mean, John isn't really wrong here. That is what Garfield said. And Garfield, this is why us people have socks. Given some of the other excuses that women have given to John over the years, I think Julie was actually pretty nice about it here. You think John would have known given that the thing in the blankets wasn't struggling at all. Garfield rejects your reality and substitutes his own for his morning breakfast. You're damn right, Garfield. You're damn right. Isn't Garfield barely only a year old here, John? I think you were a little bit too soon on this joke, my friend. Come on, Pookie, you gotta stop enabling Garfield's habits here. Well, Garfield, at least you gave it a good try, but I guess you couldn't pull one over on John this time. Honestly, a pretty justified crash out, I think, from John's perspective. I mean, how did John not notice? Garfield's like really heavy. Or is he just so used to it that he just doesn't notice now? I still wonder exactly where the kitty tree was on John's person, but yeah, definitely not a smart idea. For some strange reason, I'm getting a very strong urge to quote The Room. Traumatize your pet with one-word challenge. Hey, fat people in Seattle, Garfield's talking to you with this one. Don't worry, Garfield, your intellectual property has grown to be worth far more than just $1 million. I mean, it's Garfield. What did you really expect out of his New Year's resolutions? Let's just say that Garfield has his very unique form of natural grace. And that, my friends, is why you have to remember not to leave the toilet seat up after you use the bathroom. Man, John really is good at reading Garfield's mind, huh? So I'm guessing that Garfield has used this one on John before, so I guess you gotta come up with a new one. Damn, Garfield's actually got some pretty good eyesight if he can see all the way in there. Well, at least you're eating regular food that's a lot easier to obtain than, nuclear fuel rods. Imagine having to eat those to maintain your power. What's more impressive about these trees that Garfield finds himself stuck in is that they're able to uphold his weight so well. R.I.P. Petey, he seemed like a real one. Well, look on the bright side here, Garfield. You can now more accurately cosplay Kirby with your new round shape. This is like the only time that Garfield is shown to be afraid of mice rather than just being friendly towards them. I mean, would you really want Garfield to be like other cats, John? I think Garfield's pretty special the way he is. Guess the wind caught you and carried you way over the turkey, huh, Garfield? Is that what this was supposed to be? An ugliness competition? If so, that's definitely not the vibes I was getting. Well, that certainly seems painful. Poor Garfield. Do you think those were saltine crackers or what? Well, Odie, you gave it your best shot, but unfortunately Garfield is still too beast mode for you. Sometimes Garfield does a little trolling just by being a little too lazy. Oh yes I did, Garfield. I certainly did see that. Well, cat fans, are you satisfied? I sure hope so. Where did Garfield learn to ballroom dance? That's what I want to know. I guess this is the justification for why Garfield occasionally exercises willingly. Personally, I'm wondering how exactly Garfield managed to sit on the chair in a way that it splayed out all four of its legs when it cracked. Like, that's kind of impressive to me. Well, you know what they say, cats can defy gravity when they really want to. I mean, John wasn't wrong. You can't keep them in your drink. Either they melt or your cat steals them, I guess. Oh, Garfield, if you think television is bad back in 1979, 2025 would like to have a word with you. Given how hotels usually upcharge for pets, I don't really blame John for trying to do this. Well, it didn't hurt you at least, Garfield, but it might have killed somebody else. You know, John, you could have told Garfield to just tie it to the branch and climb down, but I don't know, kind of a dick move on your part. I guess this is somewhat of a precursor to squirrels in my pants. Hate to disagree with you here, John, but I have not met a single person on this earth who actually likes liver. In fact, everyone who I've heard from that has eaten it said it sucks, so I gotta side with Garfield even if I've never tried it myself. You heard it here, folks. Garfield likes getting turned first thing in the morning. Given that he was hit with a stuffed bear, I can't imagine that really hurt Odie all that much. Garfield has some pretty impressive kicking power, all things considered, wouldn't you say? As bad as I feel for John, I do think it was kind of self-imposed by bringing your cat to a furniture store, but also I really want to know what the heck Garfield's talking about. The trouble of having more than one pet, they'll both always want your attention. A rare moment where Garfield actually seems to enjoy the diet food that he's given. What do you know? I wonder if back during Garfield's early era, there was actually a trend of fat people saying that they were under tall instead of overweight. Honestly, I don't really know since I wasn't alive during that time, but I would guess not. I mean, given that you tripped over a loaf of bread there, Garfield, I don't blame John for not having respect. I'm just going to assume that Lyman must hate Odie if he really put him in such an outfit. I mean, to be fair, from what I've heard of most pet owners, they would probably choose their pet over their first date. That's a pretty strong curtain if it's able to hold Garfield by just his tail, huh? Despite what these ladies say in this comic, I've seen quite a number of people walk their cats on leashes, so I don't think it's really that crazy. But then again, maybe back in 1979 it was. You know, Garfield is actually being fairly reasonable here, so, John, I guess you know what you gotta do, and I guess we know what you never do given Garfield never gets interested in chasing mice. You would think that John would have been impressed by this. The most absurd thing about this comic is the fact that the ketchup pours out that quickly and easily. And this, my friends, is why dogs don't actually want to catch their own tail. You would think that Lyman would know this, given that he owned Odie before he moved in with John. Does reverse psychology just create like a double negative that cancels each other out and you're just left with psychology? And folks, welcome to the very first appearance of Garfield's superhero identity, the Caped Avenger. Well, that put a little bit of a disturbing image in my head. Let's not talk about this one again, shall we, Garfield? I love that overly goofy little pose that Garfield puts Odie in. It's just so ridiculous. I guess Garfield just doesn't like the idea of being outdone by a dog, so... Dang, Garfield, I think even Freddy Fazbear would be jealous of that scream. Get trolled, Normal. I'm pretty sure there are later Garfield comics where Garfield knows exactly what a dog whistle is, so maybe this was just a comic where he learned about what they are. Suspiciously drumstick mouth-shaped Garfield be like. Given that most canaries barely even weigh a single ounce, I don't think that was really a canary, Garfield. I mean, maybe it was a turkey, as turkeys are about on average 30 pounds, but turkeys don't really fly, so yeah, I don't know, Garfield. I just don't believe this one. Sorry, buddy. Garfield, the #1 enemy of all antique stores. I don't really understand how the first panel of this comic works, given that it's moving left from the left edge of the table, but it seems to have movement from before the table, so like, was it just floating in midair? I don't really get this one. Well, he didn't take one bite. What are you gonna do now, John? I don't think Garfield's grasp of cute is any different from Normal's. He's just way bigger, so he makes bigger booms. And after all that, it was only a couple inches off the ground. Huh? And the second step is just buying a whole new one, Garfield. In John's defense, most people don't immediately stop the moment they exit a door, so I don't know if you'll have a clear-cut case on this one, Garfield. They use this gag quite a number of times in Garfield, where when either Garfield or Odie use John's toothbrush or toothpaste, they suddenly have this big smile, and I don't really know what the gag is supposed to be, other than, I guess because their teeth are clean, they want to really show them off. I don't know why they keep coming back to this gag. I don't really think it's that great. Okay, and are you gonna turn up the heat, John, or not? Did Seth MacFarlane steal the intro of Family Guy from this Garfield comic strip? I mean, he even mentions sex and violence, so, sorry to call you out like this, Seth. Well, it is pretty cute that John and Garfield can just have their moment and have just a little bit of silly fun with a photo booth. Sometimes you just gotta let your pet have a little fun. Never let it be said that Garfield does not have some pretty amazing skills when he wants to. If I were you, John, I would just take the W that Garfield's willing to eat the cabbage in some form rather than no form. Well, you know what they say, Garfield. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em. And there's also more than one way to put your owner in the hospital. That wasn't flying, that was falling without style. You would think with his face right in the screen door, Garfield would have been able to see that one coming, but maybe Odie just is moving at warp speed or something. As impressive as that was, given that it's not a bungee rope, I think Garfield would have been practically strangled by that. You know, I kind of wonder if John and Garfield live in like a really small town, given the fact that they always seem to go to this one diner no matter how crap it is. Maybe they just don't have a lot of choices. Come on, John, let him have a little fun. What harm is he really causing by doing that? Kudos to John, this is actually pretty smart thinking tricking Garfield like this. Who do you think you are with that super fancy speech bubble, Garfield? Mr. Antenna from Deltarune? And this is the very first appearance of the waitress known as Irma, a reoccurring character who is always the waitress that serves John and Garfield at the diner they always go to. As you might have guessed, this information is pretty inaccurate. The first rodents appeared about 66 million years ago, and the first cats about 25 million years ago. What I really want to know is how come John has 3 skates instead of 2. I don't know about that one, Garfield. Maybe you live in a town with better public upkeep of fire hydrants, but I've seen plenty of fire hydrants that look like they've gone years without a new paint job. I mean, Garfield has a point here. What exactly does John expect of Garfield? I mean, honestly, John, what were you really expecting out of Garfield? I like how genuinely flabbergasted Garfield seems in this panel, like, it's just so silly. And for those of you fat people who could get in but can't get out, don't worry, there's a carpenter on the way. Don't worry, Garfield, while you were asleep, they still managed to get one made. What I want to know is exactly what John was picturing. What does he think a teddy bear fights like? To be fair to Garfield here, John should have known that Garfield can do that, so maybe he should have chosen his words a bit more carefully. I mean, if you find mindless violence pretty entertaining and therapeutic, then I guess they are, John. I'm with Garfield here. There's only so much you can hype up a cat food flavor. Yeah, trust Garfield here. This is not the only time in the comics where he gets that fat. I think if you just wiggle enough, it'll probably just shake loose. I mean, most window blinds aren't really that strong, Garfield. Oh, it certainly is just Ducky, Garfield. It certainly is. I mean, at least Garfield seems to be listening to John's instructions at this time, so I think he should be thankful for that. And this is why you should consult with actual pet owners and not just pet magazines before you get a pet. Get absolutely wrecked, Garfield. You kinda deserve that one. Get tubified, nerd. Given that you don't look very roughed up, I'm guessing you didn't really hurt yourself. I mean, you think Garfield would have been able to tell just by touching it that that's not a crescent roll, but also, John, why would you leave your sweat socks on the dinner table? Given that the turkey is colored differently than the sand, I'm not 100% convinced that that's actually made of sand. Well, Garfield, it's as they say, all's fair in love and bath time. So, I'll take that as a not at all, huh, Garfield? Well, today certainly is not Garfield's day. I mean, that is a pretty disturbing rendition of Garfield, so I don't blame him with this one. And ladies and gentlemen, say goodbye to Black-Eared Odie. From September 27th onward, he now has brown ears, and this was to basically make him more distinct from Snoopy. Oh, he certainly was trying to make a funny, Garfield, and I'd say it was pretty funny. Okay, Brenda, when was the last time that you saw an orange pig, huh? That was certainly a close shave, Garfield, but you still might be hearing from that mouse's lawyers. I mean, that's not really an unreasonable demand, John. I mean, unless you already gave him breakfast. One of the universe's many mysteries is how the heck Garfield got that chicken leg stuck in his head. That seat must have some pretty impressive range if it can go both up and down that far. Rule number 1 of owning pets, you'll never have a meal alone. Did John just happen to turn his face at the exact moment that Garfield sneezed? Do you think that Garfield has an ancestor who was a member of the Spanish Inquisition? And some people think that Garfield wouldn't make a good Smash Bros. Character. Come on, he was doing it before Smash Bros. Even existed. Or it could be a really large rat that got attacked by a porcupine and then magically transferred all of the quills it got stuck with to Garfield now. Well, this mouse is certainly weird looking, so yeah, this is before Jim Davis really standardized his mouse design. I mean, it's the middle of February, Garfield. What did you really expect? But I'm guessing he wasn't really thinking at the time. How exactly did Odie hurt his paw when he ran headlong into the little stool there? Shouldn't it be his head that Lyman's worried about? Come on, Garfield, you're not supposed to throw your best friend under the bus like that. And a pretty impressive one at that, eh, Garfield? Well, you know what they say, Garfield. All toasters toast toast, but not when they're being watched. Garfield the Cat's window blind, hitting store shelves this December. I mean, bachelorhood and virginity are two very different things, so I guess Garfield could be completely telling the truth here. I like the implication that Irma does actually serve dogs, which I really don't understand, but whatever, it's her diner. Drama queen, but we certainly love ye. Well, at least Odie won't get chilly with that many socks on him. Imagine if it was that easy to build muscles. We probably wouldn't have any fat people. Everyone has that inner desire to push the line, John. I think you should know that. Given that the cement is still wet, I feel like Garfield could probably still get out of there on his own, but if it's already hardened, then he's kinda screwed. How in the hell did Garfield get that bumper off the car? That's really impressive. You think that John would have recognized Lyman's voice, but maybe he was putting on a special voice to use for Garfield. First of all, where did the box of fish in the first panel go in the second and third panel? Secondly, why did Garfield eat the sign when it's made out of inedible materials? And thirdly, why does the salesman look so goofy and not react to anything that happens here? That problem I'm presuming to be that they don't work exactly when a cat wants them to. How exactly did Garfield get in there in the first place? No, really, I really want to know, because that's pretty impressive. I mean, at least they look like they're having fun on it. This one is all the way up there solely because of the silly, goofy little pose that Garfield has in the middle comic. Don't worry, Garfield. When you're dead, your loved ones will be the ones to dress you up anyway, so it really doesn't matter if you have anything right now. If I had an ice pick, I might actually try this with peas, because honestly, that does look pretty cool. Damn, they must have been fighting with their claws out if John's gonna bleed to death. I guess Pikachu from the Pokemon anime has some competition with the faces that Garfield's making here. According to the sources I found, dogs were domesticated around 14,000 years ago, whereas cats were only domesticated around 9,500 years ago. Does John have, like, a rubber vase or something? Further proof that Garfield was always born to be an actor. Well, on the bright side, Odie certainly does look happy about it. I wonder how Garfield got that off himself so easily, but honestly, kinda deserved there, Odie. While I was able to find evidence of Gucci making certain products for pets, I was not able to find any evidence that they have ever made scratching posts. Garfield was really ahead of the curve with the whole treat yourself thing, huh? I would once again like to call attention to the fact that Garfield is pretty dang strong if he can play with a chair like that. Okay, but like, why was that cat just waiting outside their house? Like, why was he there? What's most impressive is that John was able to lug that chair all the way down to the vet's office. I guess Garfield is a long-lost family member of Tigger. Once again, I appreciate some of the edgier jokes that earlier Garfield has, cause I don't think that they would use this kind of joke nowadays. Where the heck did Garfield get a custom-made suit of armor for him? Like, really, are there cat blacksmiths? No need to overreact there, Irma. John didn't say he didn't like it. Given that John could have blown Liz's eardrums out with that, I think her response is pretty calm, all things considered. Well, you know what they say, idle paws are the devil's playground. I mean, does John have such an extensive collection of wine that a wine list would even be possible? Well, I can certainly understand some of these items. I think the brass knuckles and bullwhip are going a little bit too far, John. Honestly, a pretty reasonable reaction from Garfield. I like how he threw it back in John's face, quite literally. Somehow Garfield got flattened like a pancake, and I just love the imagery. Oh, I don't think there's really any room for debate here, Garfield. You definitely just melted. I guess Garfield has never heard of the rare shark-head bird, huh? This will not be the last time that John makes the mistake of saying those words and ending up in a precarious position. Who needs an automatic tennis server when you have a cat like Garfield? I'm just surprised that he seems perfectly happy with doing it. Just look at your speech bubble, John. It's 3 R's. Once again, I just love the physical comedy done with Garfield in some of these strips. It's just so great. Can we vote to ban Matt the Rat from future EVO tournaments? I think he's a little bit OP. Given that this comic strip predates the Fast and Furious movies by 22 years, I'm starting to think that maybe they need to give Jim Davis some royalties. I love the pose that Garfield gets stuck in on the third panel. It's just so silly as he realizes what just happened. As I said before, I think that Pikachu from the Pokemon anime has a rival here with Garfield. With spin control like that, John, I think you'd better give Garfield at least a triple helping. I wonder what landing pose Garfield would consider heads and which one he would consider tails, but I guess he got heads in this case. I mean, at least they're honest about it. You know, John, you could have easily started a house fire by tossing away a still-lit match, but yeah, I love Garfield's look in the last panel. Sometimes it's just the little things, but I love the absolutely goofy bird that's in this comic strip. It's just so silly. Despite the fact that this seems like a joke, this has actually never been contradicted in future Garfield lore, so it might actually be the truth that her name is actually a lizard, which would be really funny. Garfield, just stop timing your A-presses the moment you land on the ground. Then you'll go back to smaller jumps. To be fair, John, you only told Garfield to fetch them, not to fetch them and give them to you. Does anyone know what Nermal says in this comic strip? Cause I have no idea, but damn, that was certainly impressive. I like how this one comic strip confirms the existence of Anthros in the Garfield universe and then subsequently never brings it up again. So, 1979 was overall a better year than 1978 for Garfield. Seems like Jim Davis pretty quickly started honing his craft, and yeah, that's pretty great to see. So I'm curious to see how things go in the future. I'm also going to start compiling a big spreadsheet of data to determine which Garfield comics from like which months and which days of the week I like most, so we'll see what that shows, and I'll go over it probably in its own separate video after all of these videos are over and I've caught up to Garfield. So until the 1980 video, that's it from me from now. Thanks for watching.